Welcome to Mill Hill East Church,
a community where everyone can experience the love of Jesus.
A family where we explore the love of Jesus together.
A church which expresses the love of Christ.
You're welcome here.
Good morning, Mill Hill East Church. It's great to be with you this morning online. Our sermon series currently is Exploring the Love of Jesus, and I wanted to talk to you about how I explore the love of Jesus in my life as I'm currently on maternity leave from work at Mill Hill East Church, what that looks like, and just the blessing that God brings in our lives, in every aspect of our lives, the way he pours out his love on all of us. So I pray that this morning God gives us a real depth of understanding of his love for every single person who is joining with us this morning. Amen. So I thought to start, I would show you my backpack. It's on the table beside me, so it looks bigger than it is. Here it is. So this is my backpack. It's the nappy bag that we have for our girls. Got some side pockets going on here. A big old front zip with pockets for bottles and for pens and all sorts of stuff, and loads inside. Inside I've got my wallet, because you need that. I've got some nappies for 2 size children. I have still in there packages from the pharmacy because I haven't got a proper bag for them yet. Some allergy medicine for my child who has some severe allergies to some foods. So always have those on us. Got some socks and a couple of whole outfits of clothes for 2 different age children again. A hat in case it strikes cold, because we're in London and it could be cold any time of the year. A nappy bag. I've got a wet bag in case. Ooh, I've got things flying out. Rice from feeding ducks a week ago. I've got a mini pack of crayons in case we are caught somewhere that has no entertainment for my toddler. I've got my own inhaler because I am asthmatic. I have a Westfield certificate that I was given for my birthday a few years ago but couldn't use because of the pandemic. So that's probably expired now. I always have snacks in here for the girls because girls get snacky. And I'm sure there are many more things if I continue to dig. But this backpack is a bit of a metaphor for my life. I've always got lots of stuff going on. There's always lots in my head, lots going on around, lots going on in my mind, and I try and be prepared for everything. But this just never works out, does it? I never manage to quite be prepared for everything. And with that in mind, I'm going to read our passage for today, which is Luke 10:38-42, and it's the story of Jesus visiting Mary and Martha at their home. As Jesus and his disciples were on their way, he came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. She had a sister called Mary who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he said, but Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to him and asked, "Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? Tell her to help me." "Martha, Martha," the Lord answered, "you are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her." So this is our passage, and I'm here today to tell you that I am currently in a state of being Martha. It's a tricky time, and it's a really strange situation to find myself in, actually, when really I just long to be Mary, as I think most of us do. 10 years ago, if you asked me what it would look like to explore the love of Jesus, what would that be to me? What would that feel like? I would say that we explore the love of Jesus by jumping right in, 2 feet in. We get involved in mission, whether that's overseas, whether that's in a neighbouring community, whether that is in your community, and especially in your community. We learn on the job, and that's how Jesus will meet with us and bless us through worship, through quiet times in prayer and in reading our Bible. This is the way that we explore Jesus' love, the way that he meets with us and he can pour his love out over us and into our lives, and we are filled with the Spirit and we understand him and know him better and deeper. And then if you cut to now, the reality of my life, my values are still the same. I still believe that prayer and worship and reading our Bible are so, they are pillars and foundations in how we develop our relationship with God, how we understand the depth of his love. But my reality is also that I live in Millbrook Park, which is a new development in Mill Hill here. And I've been here for 3.5, nearly 4 years, I'd say. And my husband Ryan and I moved in here to plant a church or a worshipping community of some sort. And all this time down the line, because of various reasons, we're still, we feel at square one in many ways. We've moved house twice. Now we don't even live in Millbrook Park. We're just across the road, but we're just outside of the community. We live in a community that we, in many ways, feel like we barely are connecting with, or every time we've built those deep friendships and started to really get into those good questions and conversations and start to develop something a bit fuller, and that feels like it's really God-driven and Jesus-focused, something happens and we move or they move. Most recently, we had some really wonderful friends who also had a 2-year-old, a little boy, and we were just building this amazing friendship through this pandemic, and we were just both agreeing at how wonderful it is to have such close friends. And then they dropped a wonderful bomb on us and told us that they had to move to South London. So our good friends don't live in our community anymore, and that just was really sad for us, because we just loved being able to develop that friendship, and we felt like it was something that God was doing here. We are raising 2 little girls, Aurora and Ailey, and I feel like because of that, oftentimes I'm on the outside of things. It's really hard to get involved after church and meet new people. It's really hard to stop and spend time in certain environments when I need to get my children down for a nap or make sure I get them home and feed them, because especially with my oldest daughter, making sure that she has food that she can eat with her allergies is really important. So actually it can be really difficult to connect with certain groups of people. Even on a Sunday morning, I spend a lot of time in the creche at church with my children, which is wonderful, but most of our worship time, even at home, is spent listening to Rendco Kids, which is very good music, really good worship and great for the family. But it's nice to be able to be involved in corporate worship that isn't kids worship as well. We often are around other families, other individuals who work harder than we do, who spend more hours in the city or at their job, at their desk, or in a tinier home than we have, and they're slaving away, or they're taking care of more children, or they're doing it on their own. Wow, single parents. That's impressive. And I can get very caught up in the comparison game and think, how do they have this energy that seems to never end? Because I just cannot. And I get to the end of my day and I tuck my children into bed and I just make it downstairs for a very brief time before my youngest wakes up for another feed. And I'm falling asleep on the sofa. And I feel like that this season is really tough sometimes. And we have other things going on with our family right now. We have had a recent death in our family that we're trying to deal with and mourn this family member at the same time as raising our children, and time just keeps ticking on and it's very busy. And I feel like my prayer life is just one or two things all the time, and it's really hard to think and plan and work beyond the everyday sometimes, and my mundane kind of daily rhythm takes over even when I don't want it to. And I often feel like I spend all day working and cleaning and cooking and preparing and refreshing the space that I live in, so that it's clear for a time, maybe when my children are napping, or maybe at the end of the day when I can have that time where I'm Mary, where I sit at Jesus' feet and I get to just listen to him and spend time reading my Bible and just have that one-to-one time in calm. But I find that again and again, I feel like Martha, and I'm just clearing space and clearing space and clearing space, and I haven't had that time. I feel like it can often feel like God's love and his presence are in the positives of our lives, but there is a real simplicity to the gospel of Jesus. Actually, his death, his resurrection, his love, it transcends to all areas of our life. It's more powerful than the limits that we put on it. So good, bad, chaotic, messy, God is there and he meets you there where you are. His love covers it all and it gives you grace. His grace covers us, and his grace is a beautiful and strong and powerful thing. So whether I spend all my time trying to be Mary and missing that time and missing those moments, even when I capture little tiny pockets of it, God is there, his love is there, and I still am learning and understanding and experiencing his love in the everyday. Amazingly, he can speak to me and breathe life into me in the routine that I have, in the way that my children interact with me or with each other, in the neighbour who says something just encouraging about what's been going on in her week, or in that tiny conversation I do manage to catch with somebody from church on a Sunday, but also in those tiny moments where I'm packing the dishwasher, where I am on my own, or I'm just tidying up those toys at the end of the day. God is there with me, and God does speak to me, and he lavishes his love on us in those dull or routine moments of our lives. There's a poem that I came across in the last week or so that was a little bit naff, but it said something along the lines of how in the Bible we see that men are often called to go to those high places, climb the mountain to meet with God and experience him. And actually for women, God comes to them at the well. He comes to them in their home, like Mary and Martha. He comes to them while they're on the job, while they're getting on with those regular tasks that they need to do. And this isn't to excuse all women from stopping and having those times of being Mary and having those quiet times. And it's not to say that as a mother, this is something that we do that is just okay, just to never slow down and stop. But it did just make me think of how there are some seasons that are hard, that are non-stop, and that actually sometimes we read our Bibles at 3 a.m. for 2 minutes, and sometimes we start to pray and we fall asleep, and actually God is there with Martha too. God is there when we're washing those dishes, or when we're preparing a meal, when we're picking up our children, or when we are studying for an exam constantly. It feels like God is there when we are trying to mentor a friend or be mentored ourselves. God is with us in that busy season, as well as when we have that time to stop and give him a fullness, the fullness of our time. And we see in this passage that Martha was a busy woman. She wasn't necessarily doing the wrong thing in this passage. Actually, there would have been specific jobs that she did have to do, and roles that, as a woman in her time and in her location, this is what she got on with, and it was good and it was honourable. And there were certain locations in the home that she lived in that she would have been that she would have worked in and lived in, and certain locations that men would have worked in and lived in and done their specific roles and jobs. And it seems like here, Mary is actually crossing a boundary here and possibly being in an area where men would have sat and reclined and listened to Jesus and learned from Jesus. And actually, Martha's getting on with the jobs that she was told that, not told to do, but the jobs that she is meant to do. The jobs that are part of her daily rhythm, part of her being in the fullness of who she is and living the life that she had. So she wasn't sinning by not being there with Jesus, but Jesus is saying, actually, here, there are times when actually you do just need to stop and you do need to spend time with me, no matter what it looks like to other people, no matter what boundaries you're crossing, you spend time with me. So there's definitely this point where we do stop and we spend time with Jesus in a slow, relaxed way, and we get to just enjoy his love in those moments, in those times of prayer, of worship, of reading our Bible. And she doesn't get it right here, but we can relate to her because we don't always get it right and we don't always find or make that time. So I guess two things come out of this for me. First, we go to those places that Jesus is. Like I was just saying, we do stop, we look for Jesus where he is, and we let him lead us to those places. And we find God's love in those places that he leads us to. But also, second, have grace with yourself. God has a lot more grace with us than I think we often give ourselves. And as I'm learning currently, Jesus will meet us in everything, in every location, when we allow him to meet with us. When we are constantly tuning in, when we are constantly having that conversation with him, he will meet us. He will meet us there. And Martha was someone that Jesus loved as a sister. Martha was someone that Jesus loved, and he loved her sister and he loved her brother. And the love of God is not suffocated by our busyness. It's not suffocated by the things that we're getting on with. We just need to invite Jesus into the mundane, into the routine of our life. And I know God's love for me in the way that he forms me as I actively learn to parent my children, as I attempt to bless and support them, as I attempt to build my relationship with my husband, as I attempt to, I work to build in this community with my husband, with my family, as we look to follow him in all those areas of our life and in the mission that he has brought us to here in Mill Hill. I know God's love because I know he is forming me and he is transforming me every day. And what is amazing in this story is we do see that transformation in Martha as well. We see her later on in the story where her brother Lazarus has died, and she's the first one on the scene to meet Jesus as he comes on the road to see his good friend. And she has full faith in him that he can restore her brother who has already died. She knows that he is the Messiah. She believes that he is the Son of God. And we see this faith and this understanding and this love that has transformed this woman. So we see her once in this place of busyness and not managing to stop and sit like Mary, her sister. But next we see her fully understanding who Jesus is and how amazing he is and how much he can transform and does transform her life and those around her. there is a real beauty in how we see Martha grow, and that is something that hopefully is something that I will see in my own life in the years down the line, in the weeks down the line even, the way that Jesus is transforming me and growing me through his love as I experience his love in those everyday tasks and those everyday things. So there's a new dimension to God's love that I'm beginning to understand, just starting to. It's that kind of non-joyful exhaustion. I always thought that this part of my life would just be full of extreme joy of the Lord and joy of my life, and both things obviously intertwined, and that 24/7 feeling work and always needing a nap or a holiday wouldn't feel quite as drab as it does sometimes, but actually God is guiding me and he is holding me and strengthening me by his love. And this love is beautiful, it is understanding, and it is gentle. And I think he is inviting us, wherever we are in our lives right now, whether you are in a place of real calm and real time with him, or whether you are rushed off your feet and you're working all those extra jobs, or you are taking care of your mother or father or your children or your sister or brother or your neighbor, whether you are running around trying to help other people or just get yourself out of bed in the morning, Jesus is there and his love can be experienced if we ask him to come and speak to us, if we ask him to rest and wait with us and just speak to us wherever we are in whatever situation. So my questions, I have a few questions for us this morning. And first is, do you need to give yourself some grace today? Have you been beating yourself up a bit because you just can't make what you want to happen? Paul says a very confusing paragraph. He says, you know, I do what I do not want to do, and what I do want to do, I don't do. And it's life, isn't it? We want to spend time with Jesus and we do the wrong things sometimes, or we physically feel like we can't make that space. But we can give ourselves grace and we can let Jesus take us to those new places from where we are right now. Do you need to give yourself some grace today? Second, do you need to ask God for some rest? Have you just been burning the candle at both ends? Do you need real rest and peace in the Lord Jesus? And finally, do you feel woven into the bigger picture that God has? Do you feel very much part of God's church today? And if you need to make a decision to follow Jesus, then please make that decision. Get in touch with us at Mill Hill East Church. The team would love to bring you into an understanding of what it looks like to be part of the church, but also to support you in that. And if you are already following him, do you feel like you are part of his bigger picture? Josh spoke recently about how we are grafted onto the vine. We are grafted onto God, into the story. We're grafted into his people. And that's really important that we know that we understand that we are part of this story now. Do you feel like you are understanding that? So I think as we finish now, let's ask him to speak with us and be with us in every day, because he is with us and he loves us.
Living God, enable us this day,
pilgrims and companions,
committed to the way of Christ,
faithful to the call of Christ,
discerning the mind of Christ,
Offering the welcome of Christ.
Growing in the likeness of Christ.
Engaging in the mission of Christ.
In the world that belongs to Christ.
Amen.